And next, in the last class, we had discussed Rajmohan's wife as a national allegory. So I had discussed 3 questions, answers. Now, in today's class, I will be discussing another question, and that is um the suffering of women is central to Rajmohan's wife. Discuss or write a note on the author's description of the agony and suffering of women. So it can be put in these 2 ways, the question that is. So today I'll be discussing this particular topic with you. Now I'll give you certain points. So as generally happens in offline classes, I used to dictate the answer to you, but in an online class that is not always possible. So what I'll do, I will just give you certain important pointers so that you can take them down, and then you can prepare uh, an answer on your own. So keeping that in mind, let us start this topic. And as we know that Bankim Chandra was, or he is regarded as the one of the pioneers of the Bengali novel, and uh, but he started his writing career by writing an English novel, that is Rajmohan's Wife. This is the novel that he had written. So that is something that is very interesting, that a writer who ultimately came to be regarded as one of the greatest uh, Bengali novelists. He should have started his writing career with an English novel. Now, in the later Bengali novels, I do not know whether you have read any of his Bengali novels. There are a lot of very important Bengali novels. For example, Anandamot is there, Kopalakundala, Durgesh Nandini, and many others also. So, in all these novels, we will find that Bankim Chandra, he had sort of he had portrayed uh, various heroines, and all these heroines, they they are different from his first heroine, that is Matangini, and they are well drawn characters. But the character of Matangini is has not been drawn in a very detailed way. Rather, it has been sketched, we can say, in a perfunctory manner, that is, not in a very detailed fashion. So that is one difference that we can see here. Now, however, as we can see from the title of the novel, Rajmohan's Wife, though her name is not mentioned, Matangini's name is not mentioned in the title of the novel, still we can see that, for example, it would be easy for us to guess that Matangini would be the central character in this novel. So, though she has not been named by the writer, she would occupy the, uh, kind of most of the attention, and she would be the kind of character who would sort of be the all important character, and the incidents, the whatever happens in the novel, that would center around her character. So the male characters, for example, Madhav Ghosh, Mathur Ghosh, they are not so important in this novel. They, of course, they have their roles to play, but even Rajmohan himself, uh, compared to them, Matangini has a more important role, far important role to play here. Now, as we know, when we are looking at the answer to this question, that is the suffering and agony of women as it has been portrayed in Rajmohan's Wife, we have to say that the suffering of women, the female characters, uh, in this novel is really, it is a kind of a central theme, as it were. And even in some of the important 19th century novels in Bengali and also in English, if we look at such novels, for example, among the English novels, you will see Vanity Fair, Madame Bovary, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, Tales of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. So there also the female character, that is a central heroine, that is, she has to suffer, and some of the other female characters, they also suffer. Again, some of the novels written in the regional languages like Marathi, for example, Hindi novels, they also show the suffering of women. Uh, as you know that during those times, women were not allowed to have different, privileges, or they were not allowed certain, uh, not allowed to do certain things. And there was a thing called social conformity. So in Rajmohan's Wife also, we see in the very first chapter how Matangini is fearful that her husband Rajmohan would object to the fact that she had gone to the river to fetch water with her friend uh, Konok Moi. So that is a kind of a restriction that is placed on Matangini by her husband, who is somewhat of a brutal nature, as we have seen in the novel, as he is portrayed, as his character is portrayed in the novel. And the identity of a woman, the identity of a woman was constructed, it was built up, it was built by, you know, as much by herself as by the other people around her. And therefore, she had to conform. She had to conform to the societal norms. The societal norms as, firstly as a daughter, then as a wife, then as a mother or a widow. So a woman had to, in those days, uh, she had to conform to the norms or the laws that society laid down. So this is one thing that is somewhat responsible for the suffering of women. Now, in Rajmohan's Wife, if we come back to the novel, From the very first chapter, of course, in the very first chapter, uh, we we meet Konok Moi. Now, even in the description of Konok Moi, as we get the description, she is not. She is a widow, and she is a person who is not so well off. She is a Kulin Brahmin woman, but she doesn't have very good clothes to wear. So she is wearing a coarse and dirty sari, as it is described. And it is noted that though she might be sorrowful, she might have many things for which she could have complained. Actually, she has this capacity to look at everything lightly and laugh away her tears. So that is the portrayal of Konok Moi. Now, she is, of course, the very good friend of Matongini. And in Matongini, uh, we find that she is a young woman who is very beautiful, very quite intelligent, and has a very sharp presence of mind. But unfortunately enough, she has been married off to a person who, that is Rajmohan, who is not worthy of her. So he is a brutal character who abuses her, who places a number of restrictions on her, and if she dares to disobey him, then she is punished in different ways, either physically beaten up or she is verbally abused. So Matongini, as the central character of this novel, we find that she is very much uh, in awe of her husband, and she is suffering immensely. Uh, and later on, we would find that Madhav Ghosh, who is the husband of Madhav Ghosh, who is the husband of, as you know, her younger sister, her younger sister Hemangini. Now, Madhav Ghosh and Matongini, they were playmates. They were playmates uh, during their childhood days, and they have a kind of a feeling for each other. They have a feeling for each other, and in this uh, respect, Matongini, as we see later on, she when she hears about this, the way her husband has been plotting, has actually joined Mathur Ghosh. Mathur Ghosh, who is the cousin of Madhav Ghosh, and who is trying to take away the will that empowers Madhav Ghosh to, or sort of that gives Madhav Ghosh the money. So she obviously, as we can see, she goes out at night in order to warn Madhub and Himangini about the dacoity that is going to take place in their house. So, though she loves Madhav Ghosh, she is, of course, she is not allowed, or she cannot express her love for him. Uh, Madhav Ghosh is a handsome young man, and he is extremely good natured, and but obviously Matongini, uh, since she is married to Rajmohan, she has to accept him as her husband. Now, from the very beginning, we have to look at it this way, that from the very beginning of the novel, when Bankim Chandra introduces Matangini to us, of course, her grace, her beauty, her intelligence, those virtues are emphasized. But another thing is equally emphasized, and that is the suffering, the agony that she sort of endures. And there is a line in the novel which is used by Bankim Chandra to describe the anxiety or the sorrow that is there in the heart of Matangini. And I'm quoting from the novel. This is the line that, quote, some sorrow or deep anxiety had dimmed the lustre of her fair complexion, unquote. So her fair complexion had been dimmed by the way she had been uh, suffering. Some kind of sorrow was there in her heart, which she could not dismiss, could not get rid of. So she is compared to a beautiful flower like the land lotus. The land lotus, which is half scorched and it is in a way half radiant under the noonday sun. So uh, the description, as we can see here, is of course, in a way, it is uh, reminiscent of the way that she has suffered. Her beauty, her intelligence, everything has suffered because of her marriage to Rajmohan, who is not worthy, or who cannot appreciate her qualities. So the physical and the mental suffering that she has undergone, that has impaired, or spoiled her beauty. Now, as we see in the chapter which is titled "Love Can Conquer Fear," Matangini she is sort of she takes the center stage in doing what no woman would have dared to do. That is, she, as I had mentioned, she goes to Madhav Ghosh's house around midnight, braving you know the dacoits who were planning to, the robbers who were planning to rob Madhav Ghosh's house, and also the supernatural beings which might be there. So those were early days, during those times, the fear of ghosts was also there. So the nocturnal journey that she undertakes by risking her life, and that is a kind of bravery that is unparalleled, which she shows. So this is one aspect of her character which is very, very important, and we have to sort of, take note of this, the way she braves the hardships to go to Madhav's house. So through the darkness of the forest and through all the dangers associated with it, she goes there. And ultimately she succeeds in her mission, and obviously she feels happy that she has been able to warn Madhav and Hemangini. And it is described by Bankim Chandra that she is so happy that she would be happy to face death even. Now, when she comes back to her house, she finds that her husband Rajmohan is waiting for her, and the fact that he has come to know about her nocturnal adventure, and he is prepared to murder her. He takes a knife and he is about to kill her when, of course, the two robbers, the Sardar and his assistant Viku, they come into the room through the window, and that prevents Madhav Ghosh from killing his wife. So Matangini is saved, and the three of them, they are sort of involved in a tussle, in a kind of a fight, and Matangini takes this opportunity to escape. So in that way she escapes her fate, and she runs away. And later on we see how she goes to the house of Mathur Ghosh. Mathur Ghosh, of course, is very different from Madhav. He is Madhav's cousin, but he is very jealous of Madhav, and though he himself is a rich man, as is described by the kind of jewelry he wears, still he wants to take away the will that has provided Madhav Ghosh uh, with a lot of money. So Mathur Ghosh, now he has some designs on Matangini, and he therefore lets her stay in his house, and with the help of a servant woman, Suki's mother rather, what he does, he confines her in a room in the household, in the kind of a cellar, or in a kind of a room, and from there he is rescued by his uh, first wife Tara and Madhav Ghosh, who is also taken captive. So Matangini, as we see, she does not yield to Mathur Ghosh's threats, and she decides to die by starvation. So her suffering and hardship, actually finally it is lessened by the arrival of Madhav and Tara, who take her away, who rescue her from that locked chamber. And as we know, in the final part of the novel, her husband Rajmohan is deported. He is caught and deported, and she herself has to leave Radhaganj, and she has to go back to her father's house and live with her father. So the author, that is Bankim Chandra, he finishes off the novel in this way, that how Matangini had gone, finally she had gone to live with her father, and there she died after a few years. So she did not live long after this. And the kind of character that is portrayed, Matangini's character, it is full of suffering, it is full of agony, full of hardship, as we can see from almost the beginning to the end. Only towards the end she is able to enjoy some good moments, but on the whole we can say that she becomes a kind of a sacrifice. So this is the kind of suffering that Matangini undergoes. So in order to answer this question, we'll have to look at first the character of Matangini, of course, and I also mentioned the character of Konokmoi, that is Matangini's friend, and how Konokmoi was a widow and she used to sort of, as you can see, uh, she lived with her old mother, and she is really very sorrowful for her lot and the mental suffering that she undergoes. Uh, of course, it is because of her poverty. So Konokmoi is also a character who is a suffering woman, and still she is happy in the sense that she tries to live her life in her own way. And though she laughs away her tears, we can understand as readers that she, in fact, is not a happy woman. In fact, she is a suffering woman. She can laugh away her sorrows, but there is a kind of suffering or anxiety that is there in her heart. So the two women, Matongini and Konokmoi, their lot have been discussed, and now the third woman who is of some importance in this novel, and she is none other than Tara. Tara is Mothur Ghosh's first wife, and she belongs to a superior social status. And as it is mentioned in the novel, she is the kind of a elder Thakurani of the village and quite a respected lady. But still, we can understand that her life is full of sadness and suffering. Uh, Her husband, that is Mothur Ghosh, he has another wife, that is Champok, who is much younger, and Mothur Ghosh is preoccupied in his showing his all his attentions and love for her. So Tara is a kind of a neglected kind of a wife, and of course Tara is a mother also. She has a girl of 10 years old, and she is only 28 years old and quite beautiful and has a good figure with large dark eyes, as it is mentioned. And she is a woman who is mild in nature, jovial and mild, and she is a devoted wife. In spite of, the kind of neglect that she suffers at the hand of her husband, she is quite an upright and devoted wife. And Madhav Ghosh and Tara, they have been playmates since childhood. So they respected each other. It was a case of mutual respect and admiration. And though Tara was senior to Madhav by a few years, they used to address each other by their first names. So they had a very good relationship. And ultimately, as we see towards the end of the novel, Tara has a very important role to play when she rescues Madhav from the dungeon where he had been confined, and also Matongini was rescued. So Tara sort of is very active in the sense that she steals the keys from his her sleeping husband's uh, you know grasp, and releases Madhav and Matongini from captivity. So, but on the whole, though she is not as not such a sufferer, as Matongini or even Konokmoi, still she is a neglected woman. That is quite clear from the novel. And she is also an observant woman in the sense she senses that her husband, Mothur Ghosh appears to have been anxious and in a troubled state of mind. And he is actually, as we know, he was planning about his villainous activities. But Tara, as she was a devoted wife, she obviously asks her husband uh, about the reason why he was so very anxious and restless. But of course, Motul Ghosh will not tell her anything. So Tara tries her best to drag away Motul Ghosh from a life of crime, but of course she fails to do so. And ultimately, she learns about the way he had confined Matongini and Madhop in the dungeon or in the go down, and she rescues them. So, the kind of distrust that she has to suffer on the part of her husband, that is very painful for her. And she ultimately is not able to stop Mathur Ghosh from committing suicide. So obviously the companion of the Sardar, that is Bhikkhu, he, when he was caught, he confessed to his crime and the fact that it was Mathur Ghosh. It was Mathur Ghosh who had uh, sort of, employed them to rob Madhav Ghosh's house. And this confession before the Irish magistrate, of course, made Mathur Ghosh understand that he would not be able to bribe the Irish magistrate. And so he had to, ultimately, he commits suicide. So, obviously, what we learn from this novel, the three leading characters, basically Matongini, Konokmoi, Tara, uh, they are really suffering women, especially Matongini. The fact that she and the other two women, they were portrayed like this. Of course, it bears testimony to the kind of life that these women led during those times. And therefore, we can say that, of course, Bankim Chandra he has portrayed the suffering and the agony of women through the portrayal of Matongini's character, Konokmoi's activities, her character, and Tara's actions and her uh, concern for her husband. So this is the discussion that we have done today. And with this, I have completed the fourth answer, because previously I had done the plot of the novel. Then I did Matongini's character, and then Rajmohan's wife as a national allegory. So this is the fourth question that has been discussed. And the long questions that are set from this particular novel, they are mostly of these types. There are one or two other questions. For example, there might be questions on the minor characters in this novel. And then you have to talk about Madhav Ghosh's character and Mathur Ghosh's character. And uh, also, there might be questions regarding the contrast between Madhav Ghosh and Mathur Ghosh. So we can do those questions later on in our next class. So I hope that you have been able to sort of take down some notes or take down some points as to how to answer this question. And if you find anything uh, that you have not understood, you can tell me now, or you can ask me personally or in the group itself. So I'd be glad to answer your questions. So this is now there is another question, the title of Rajmohan's wife. Now the title, of course, it points to Matangini's character. So when you are given or you are preparing Matangini's character as an answer, then the title would originally, of course, that would naturally come in. So Matangini's bravery, her intelligence, her presence of mind, everything would have to be discussed if we discuss the title. So how Rajmohan's wife or Matangini saves Madhav Ghosh and Hemangini, her younger sister. So this is the answer that we have to look at.